Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
It's a big story, and that can use.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another week of Women to Watch. I'm Sue Rocco, and it's so great to be here. We have a very full, jam-packed show this week, and I'm really excited. With me, my very special guest is Melinda Thomas. Melinda is the co-founder and COO of Octave Bioscience, and she'll be joining me in just a moment. Also, later in the show, you'll be hearing from Sherry Morrison, our Lifestyle Watch contributor, and she's going to be profiling a national makeup artist, Becca Bow. And at the very end of the show, I'll be joined by our Wellness Watch contributor, Dr. Shalja Dixit. Dr. Dixit is the CEO of Curio, and she's going to be catching us up on all the things that they're doing for women's mental wellness. So now I'm very honored and excited to welcome to the show Melinda Thomas. Melinda, thanks for being here.
Well, thank you. It's your show is a lot of fun and always very interesting people, so I'm honored to be included.
Well, thank you. I'm honored to have you. And tell our viewers where you are. You're joining us from the beautiful Adirondacks, which is upstate New York, right?
It is upstate New York. Yes, I'm about 45 miles west of Albany in a teeny little cabin in on a teeny little lake.
Sounds beautiful. It's always good to be, but sometimes you're in LA. Is that right?
Palo Alto, California.
Palo Alto. Okay. Yeah. So I want to dive right into your background. And you grew up in Palo Alto. And I know that it was a really kind of exciting area where, a lot of very interesting, bright people doing all kinds of great work. I wanted to ask you, how old were you when you first recognized that kind of, Silicon Valley was a place full of entrepreneurs?
That's an interesting question. Well, that whole entrepreneurship didn't probably as it was coming up. So Palo Alto is in Santa Clara County, 415 area code. Below that is the 408 area code, San Jose and such. And when I was growing up, that was all orchards. And when you would drive down, after a point, all of a sudden it started becoming all these startup companies. So that's really where you notice the change, because there were fewer orchards and way more companies and a lot happening. And then, a lot of people you knew starting to do that kind of work.
Yeah. And I know that, your mom and dad were a big influence on you and in your career path and, kind of introducing you to entrepreneurship. Tell me about them a little bit.
Sure. So my mom is very much about opportunities. Take every opportunity, try things, get out there and do things. She showed no fear. Just do it. Get out there. And so we were raised to think you could try anything and you should try things as opportunities came your way, and to make opportunities for yourself. And then my dad was always very much about how can you make a better world with the gifts you've been given. Very smart man, very driven guy. And the arc of his life has been how can he take all that for a positive impact in the world. So between those two things, there's very strong themes about how I approached my life.
Yeah. I found it interesting. I read that you had a teacher when you were very young that said you were a natural girl leader.
Yeah, isn't that?
Yeah. What was it about you when you think about the little Melinda? What were you doing in class that the teacher recognized that?
So that was my kindergarten teacher. And for the life of me, I can't really figure it out. So I grew up a middle child, 4 kids in 5 years. So I always think I ran with a pack. And because I was a middle child, really didn't distinguish myself much. I often think of myself as invisible, honestly, where, I just didn't stand out in many ways. So that has always stood out. Like, really, I wonder too, what did she see?
Wow. Well, maybe it was the fact that you were not kind of doing what the rest of the kids were doing. If if you thought you were quiet and kind of in the background, then you were observing. And that, is a great trait for leadership.
Yeah, an interesting theory, and interesting also. What I found is that I respond to need. There's that. Leaders. Some people have it thrust upon them, and some people look for it. I've never looked for leadership. I've normally had it thrust upon me.
Wow.
Where if there's a need, I respond to that. That I want to bring what I can to help a problem, a situation. And so not trying to lead, but if there's a vacuum, I was on a jury and, immediately everybody tried to make me the foreman. And I'm like, what is going on here? And I didn't understand why all of a sudden they decided I should. So it gets thrust upon me frequently.
No, you know what I think that is, Melinda? I think, there's a calm confidence, that's different from the ones who speak out loudly and, constantly raising their hand. I think there's kind of an energy around men and women who have kind of a calm confidence. And that's my guess as to what people were recognizing in you. Tell us the story. This is a great story, because I'm not sure what a cinder block grease pit is, but when you were 7, your brothers were asked to build one and they couldn't. So you said, I'll do it. What is that?
Yeah. So one of our neighbors, Colonel Nanny, who was actually the head of the ROTC program at Stanford, he had retired at that point, and a grease pit is the pit below a car when you're trying to fix the car. And so it's about 6 feet down. And so you dig a hole in the ground and then you build up this cinder block thing with, a ladder to get in and everything. So yeah, he came around and he asked if one of my brothers could help him, and nobody was around. My mother offered me up. And so I love building things. So I went, and at the end of the day, it took us about 5 days. At the end of the day, we'd sit in rocking chairs and drink Coca-Cola, which I never got soda growing up. So that was like a thrill for me. That was my big payoff. And then he had me do other jobs. I learned how to rake a gravel roof properly,
Oh my God. Well, I'm guessing that was a dirty job, so you didn't mind getting dirty? A little bit of a tomboy?
No, I don't think so. It's funny because I have a younger sister. If more classically, the tomboy, like I did the ballet and she did the horses and the soccer and softball and stuff. But and I always looked kind of fragile. I have really tiny wrists and stuff. But always very athletic, like being active. So
right.
Yeah.
I want to talk about your education. You have a BS from Berkeley and an MBA from Harvard. That's impressive. Tell me did school come easy to you, or did you have to kind of really work very, very hard to compete?
School came easy to me, and if I'd put in more effort, I would have. I did well, but if I'd put in a little more effort, I probably would have been extraordinary grades, right? And so I did well.
You did well.
Well
enough.
Yeah. I mean, obviously grades that got me into Berkeley and grades that got me into HBS. So
and how about the again, this is kind of painting a broad brush. Typically the math and the science doesn't come as naturally to girls. We're trying to, change that and have them be more open to it. Were you always stronger in those areas?
Oh yeah, I love science and math. I love systems and processes, and so I have a father who's an engineer and an economist. I have a brother who's an engineer and a brother who's a scientist. So, I mean, it kind of is all in there. And I always loved that. Biology in particular, how things work, I think the body, the systems in the body, and math is just, things add up well, and, like how things work properly, I think as always. And so, COO's job is to make things work properly,
Yes.
in place systems, processes, and
Yes.
so it kind of naturally has been something I liked.
Yeah. So tell me what you would say, Melinda, to a young girl who's assuming that her strengths are language and communications, but you want her to open her eyes and her mind to the possibility of working in any field of STEM, science, technology, engineering, math. Because I think there's a creative element there that sometimes young girls don't understand.
Oh, that's interesting. If they don't understand, it's really just about making sure you expose yourself to it. Um, my mother was great about always making sure to expose us to many things. I even remember one of my nephews, he was 2 years old, and we're walking around a museum, and he's got his little blankie around his neck, and people are like, he's two, like, what is he doing here? And she sees he's going to be so comfortable going to museums, it's never going to be odd for him, right?
Right, right.
And so just all those science camps and those kinds of things, where they make it fun and interesting, um, is really, so then you can see whether it's something you like doing, and you can see the creative aspect, is really, give it a try, kind of, with,
Yeah.
with
I think
people who are trying to make it interesting.
right. And I think that's great advice for parents. Don't assume you know your child and think they're only interested in this one thing, showing them vast things, especially with sports. You said you were athletic. What did you play?
Growing up, it was tennis, and then the sport that really became my thing. When I got to Berkeley, I was standing in line, because a large university is all about standing in line. And the coach came up to me and said, "Would you like to be on the crew team?" And I said, "Crew, what's that?" And he said, "Rowing." I'm like, "Rowing? That sounds horrible." Like a rowboat. And, because I was like, I'm in college now. I'm not gonna be on sports anymore. That's just, extracurricular activity kind of stuff. And every line I stood in for a week, somebody came up and said, "Do you want to be on the crew team?" And I'm like, "Fine, I'll come to your thing, your tryout or whatever it was." And I just loved it. It became a very important part of my life. But it was, it did not come to me immediately, as you can tell from the story. So yeah, just always liking to do athletic things.
Yeah. Another one of those opportunities that was thrust upon you, right?
Yes,
You
exactly.
didn't seek it out. You had a conversation with a gentleman named Bob Noyce of Intel. And while you were in Washington, what did he say to you that changed your direction from going away from law school into the life science?
Right. So I had considered law school because I wanted to do something in the public interest. And I thought, that was the way. And I knew I wanted to do graduate school because I did like school. And so I just picked up and moved to DC to see if I needed a law degree to do that kind of work. And in the process, met Bob Noyce. And so I kind of explained what I was trying to do. And he said, in his very gravelly voice, because he was a big smoker, "You should go into manufacturing, we need bright minds in manufacturing, rebuilding America's manufacturing base." And I'm like, "Oh, that's low paid and not glamorous. That's exactly what I'm looking for." So went for it. And that's when I decided to go to business school to learn operations management, specifically. And again, it's all about processes and how do you make things run well. And I like that.
Can you tell me what during those, younger years was a challenge for you? I think, when we're growing up and we're trying to figure it all out and find out who we are and what we're supposed to be doing, there's always something that is just a constant challenge. What comes to mind for you? That's something you have overcome or perhaps still have to work on today?
Yeah, overcome. There are people who have real things they have to overcome in their life. I I could list things that others might suggest, but I mean, I don't really feel like that. So, I think the thing making things hard for me at any point is really my own internal voice, right? Giving myself a hard time rather than any external thing that I've had to, fight against. Um, so, yeah, just how do I like say, give yourself a break sometime, girl. You're doing pretty good, and be nice to yourself the way you would be to one of your friends. So I
Yeah.
think that
You
really
know
is
what?
more.
We talk about that on the show so much. Every single person, I'll say every guest I've ever had in 10 years says that they have that chatter, right? It doesn't matter how far you've come or what you've accomplished or what you've done. We still go, gosh, I could have done that better. Oh, I'm not good enough. Do you think it's possible to be a human being and not continually question ourselves?
I think that's that whole life unexamined. If you don't question yourself and ask, are you bringing everything you have to bear? Are you being your best self? Are you living to your maximum potential? Then you're probably not. So you get one twirl around in this earth, and you've been given a lot of gifts. So like do what you can while you're here, and push it a little, and try and make sure you're making the world better by the fact that you've been here. So um, a little push is good. Too much push, maybe, it's a balance. So something
Are
we
you,
all
are you
can work on.
yeah. Tell me, are you a spiritual person? Do you rely on, okay, tell me about that. What are you thinking about in those tough times when, you just want to keep moving forward?
It comes down to a sense of responsibility. So I was raised Catholic. For me, that means that I have a responsibility to the community, the world community, because we're all part of that. That's why we're here, is to interact with other human beings. And so um, for me, it's about making sure that I'm not wasting my gifts. Waste is a huge theme in my life. I hate waste of any kind. My husband will tell you that. Like, I can't throw things out of the
Yes,
refrigerator after that, right? So not wasting my gifts or my time here is my responsibility. So, some people pray to God for certain things. I pray to God to say, please help me be the person you want me to be.
Mm,
When I'm struggling, it's like, help me be whatever it is you're trying to have me be here, because I
yeah,
don't think I'm doing that right yet.
yeah. And help you be yourself, right? Help you be your full self.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to go into our first break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the company, Octave, and I want to talk about investors and how it all started. If you're listening on 1210, stay tuned for our watch team, and we'll be right back with Melinda Thomas.
Whether you're just getting started, already well on your way, planning for your future, drafting your vision, growing toward greatness, or finding that dreams really can come true. Whatever your next steps are, we'll be right here with you, just like we have been for 150 years. Start here, grow here, stay here. Penn Community Bank. Here we grow.
Action News at 11 with Rick Williams. It's the team you trust to bring it all together. The stories that impact your community, a sports roundup for the locals, and the AccuWeather forecast you depend on. Action News at 11 with Rick Williams.
All right, did you know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really, don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, I go to left, fake a mom. Mama, go up, mama!
She did it.
Again?
You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
The big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Hello and welcome back to the show. I'm Sue Rocco and I'm speaking with Melinda Thomas, the COO and co-founder of Octave, which is a bioscience company. Melinda, did you always want to start your own company?
No, I don't have that kind of origin story. It was really the idea that I wanted to be in a small company where I could really move the needle. It came out of having worked in a company that got very large and acquired by a much larger company. And I said, I watched as decision time went from 3 days to 3 months. And I just thought, you just don't need me anymore. Like, I get stuff done and I'm not willing to sit around and wait. And I don't have a lot of impact. If I work weekends and nights, it's not going to change anything. So that's when I went looking for something smaller, something to build that could, really use what I brought to it.
Yeah. So for the viewers, let's tell us what Octave is. What does the company do?
Yeah, sure. So Octave is a company that is changing the paradigm for care management for neurodegenerative diseases, specifically starting with multiple sclerosis. So the founder, Bill Hagstrom, and I have, focused on neurodegenerative diseases and then really looked at what was standing in the way for MS in particular, what was standing in the way of physicians being able to give the best care possible. And we spent about 2 years really talking to people living with MS, the physicians and other healthcare providers who take care of them, the other people in the ecosystem, the payers and pharma, and what were the problems and how could we provide a solution to what is a huge problem. And so we developed a 3-dimensional solution, a blood test, better imaging, and then care management, nurse care partners. And what's been fascinating is all that work, both of running around and talking to everybody, saying, what do you want? And then years of developing it. We are now in the market and everybody we've talked to wants it, like immediately. And it's like, well, I guess if you say, what do you want? And then you give it to them, they really want it. So it's just, and what's really great is if we improve outcomes for patients, then that improves outcomes for the physicians, that improves the outcomes for payers and for pharma. And so it really is wonderful that everybody wins if the people living with MS win. So it's really great.
It's not about treatments and cures. It's about managing the disease that you have. I was curious, does it encompass mental and emotional wellness? What you provide?
Sure. I mean, anxiety and depression, I think 80% of people with MS have some sort of anxiety and depression. And like, who wouldn't? You have a chronic lifetime, debilitating degenerative disease. But there are also things about the disease itself that lead to that. So everything you feel is filtered through that. So you can't improve outcomes unless you are focused on that piece as well.
And can you tell me why MS first of all the diseases. Why MS was the first one you focused on?
Yeah. So Bill and I could have focused on basically anything we wanted at this point in our careers. I mean, Bill has started and successfully exited many companies. I've had a few myself. And so I think we said to ourselves, like, what's the most complex disease, the most heterogeneous? What would be the hardest thing to do at this point in our career? But if we do it, it's like really worthwhile having spent your time on. I think that's part of the way we came to multiple sclerosis, but neurodegenerative diseases. Less glibly, multiple sclerosis is a very complex neurodegenerative disease. And so if we could prove the model in this particular disease, moving from that to, say, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, ALS, Huntington's, could make more sense, because you could see we did it as something really, really hard.
Really hard. So let's do the hardest first, and then everything else will fall into place.
Right.
Yeah. I'm curious, statistics, what are the numbers, MS versus Alzheimer's versus Parkinson's versus ALS? I feel as though, and this just could be because I'm getting older, that I'm seeing more people developing these neurological diseases. Is there one that's the most prevalent? Is there one tell me about the numbers and statistics around the different ones?
Right. So since we're focused on MS, that's the one I know the best. And that's about 1 million people in the US. One of the things that makes it stand out, though, is it is because of the drugs, and there are approximately 22 approved drugs for the treatment of MS at this point. It is up there with some of the most expensive diseases to manage, which is very surprising. So diabetes may have a lot more people who have it, but it's not as expensive to manage as something like MS. So as you focus on where to put your time and attention, there's a lot of money being spent with fairly poor outcomes. So if you can build a better mousetrap, there are resources that can be moved to fund that.
Would you say, Melinda, I know it's not your expertise, all the different neurological diseases, but your personal opinion, are we seeing more numbers, or are there just more people, or do we have access to the information and knowledge now more so than years and years ago? I just know so many personal friends and family.
Speaking to that, multiple sclerosis, I actually didn't know anybody with multiple sclerosis when we started this. So it was not a personal, mission for me. But yet when we talk to people, a lawyer, oh yeah, my sister has it, or whatever, it's fascinating that it's really 1 or 2 degrees of separation. But in MS, just a few years ago, they thought the number of people who had it was about half, because the registries weren't great. The last time that actually sort of counted was 35 years ago, and they just extrapolated. So I imagine for the other diseases, there's that sort of thing as well. There's better counting, there's better diagnosis of them. But I do think that neurological diseases, people are living longer, and that they probably are on the rise for sure.
And when you look at genetics, environment, things we ingest, is it a combination of all those that's attributing to it? And again, I know it's really an unknown, but what's your gut feeling?
It's funny you use the word gut. So we are working with a lot of collaborators, but Dr. Baronzini at UCSF just had a paper about the gut microbiome and the connection. Many people believe there's a kind of a superhighway between the brain and the gut. And so a lot of work now focusing on that. And so American diet definitely is probably playing playing a part in the environment. But that's where a lot of the research is going these days, is toward the gut microbiome.
Which really, it makes it so hard to live every day and make choices that you think are good, when there's so many things that, in the back of your mind, you think could be bad for you. It's like, how do you get through the day and know what to eat, how much to exercise, where to go, where not to go? It's a little overwhelming.
Well, it's
you
funny.
have that yourself?
I went to a guy at Stanford. They have an institute, and there's a couple that runs it. And I went to some panel he was on, and I'm like, look, you have kids, so you're feeding them, you're feeding yourselves. Like, do you have a gut, like what we should do differently? And he said, kale. Eat a lot of kale.
Oh, kale. I don't like kale. Everyone's eating kale salad. I do not like kale.
Yeah.
Anything green's always good.
Right. I know it's not health and wellness segment, but kale.
Right. Well, interestingly, Dr. Shalja, who's going to be joining us at the end of the show, started a company that's mental and emotional well-being for women specifically across the life cycle, because there's so many different twists and turns. The COO of a company like this, first of all, how many employees do you have?
We're just under 60.
60. That's a lot. I'm always curious about, leadership style or method. In other words, what do you find works for you in trying to motivate the people that work for you to bring their best work to the job?
Yeah, well, you hire people who want to do that, first of all. I mean, that sounds good, but that really is, they're internally motivated, they are good at what they do, and they want a place where they can do that. So I really feel that my job is always, number one, finding people who want to do really good work, and then just keeping crap out of their way. Like, being clear, this is what we need you to, here's the goal. Like, you're the subject matter expert, go. And I'm going to try and make sure you have what you need, and that stuff doesn't get in your way. I talk a lot about puzzle pieces. Like, we're all part of this puzzle. We all bring our thing. I have my responsibilities, you have yours. I hate it when people talk about upper management and those kinds of things. I'm like, I don't even know who you're talking about. Like I come to work every day trying to do my piece of the puzzle. You come doing yours. Let's all do it. And I think that, that respect for the work they're doing as being equally important. I think that helps motivate as well, but always asking, what do you need? Are we clear on what we're asking you to do? And what do you need to do that? And how do I get that to you?
I think it's interesting. A lot of people in upper management, I'll say, have a different definition for mistakes. Things go wrong. And you said, there's no mistakes. You're just taking a different path. And now we travel a new path. Did you always have that mentality, or do you think it developed over time in your career?
I think it's always been my mentality. Not that I don't make mistakes, and I hold those mistakes close. Like, I can go back and name my biggest mistakes very easily, very quickly, kind of thing, whether they're career related or not, and relive them. But
that's not good. You're holding on to them. Let them go.
Let them go. Right. 30 years ago, I almost backed a motorboat over a friend water skiing, kind of thing. I can't let that go. Well,
that's a little different.
Right. But yeah, in work, I also think that if you're just coming at it with the right attitude every time, you had the information you had at the time, you did your best work, you tried to make it work. If it didn't, the mistake is if you didn't try to do your best work. And if you guessed wrong or, figured out something and it didn't work, then the real second mistake is not then adapting. My company will tell you, I say, learn and adapt. That's what startups are. You will not get it right. And so you better be really ready to learn and adapt. So we do that every single day.
And of course, what COVID taught us is to learn and pivot every day, right?
Yep. that when our safety officer would ask, "Oh, Melinda, what are we doing about people coming back, or masks, or testing, or whatever?" I'm like, "Do I need to make that decision today?" "Well, no, not today." I'm like, "Well, then I'm going to wait, because today may be very different than tomorrow, may be different than next week. Circumstances keep changing, and and so just wait until you have to make the decision to let the context evolve."
Yeah. No, that's great advice. Melinda, I want to share a quote. You said, "We need to embrace this moment in history where we move beyond group classifiers like gender and race and move toward understanding the power of personalization in areas like medicine and startups." Talk about that.
Sure. I was asked to make a statement about women, and I've really never defined myself as that being my first classifier. I don't filter the world through the fact that I'm a woman. I filter it through a number of things, but that's not the first one. And so even just bulk classifiers like male and female leave a lot to be desired in terms of trying to figure out how to improve things. So the more you can personalize things, get it down to specifics. I mean, even talking about like biases against groups or people, they always joke, if there was a comedian who joked, I don't know why you have biases like that. He goes, if you get to know people one-on-one, there are all sorts of very specific reasons to dislike them, right? So to knowing people, or breaking it down even more, as we are trying to do with personalized medicine, get beyond gender as what kind of drug you ought to be on, but get down to your molecular level and really understand for you, whether you're male, female, whatever your race, here's the drug that's going to work for you. We're going to have much better outcomes. And so if we do that in the world in general, like what really fits specific to all the things about a person, not just some bulk classifiers, as I've been calling them.
Yeah, it's more about someone's behaviors and beliefs and values and what they're doing with their life. Are you seeing it getting better in your industry?
Yes. I don't want to suggest that there are not, a road to go, but it's funny. I've been asked to report on our gender makeup in the company and our, minority status and our LGBTQ and everything. And I've said, we don't track that. I don't pay attention to that in that way. And to actually ask me on a form to fill out what I think that person is in all those ways, like I can tell you that person. And so, but if I had to broad brush, like we really are quite diverse. We're probably 50-50, male, female, at the C level as well and everything. So in my company, for sure, I think by not paying attention to it, it's actually been working out on those kinds of metrics. But yeah, it's I think it's getting better.
It's working. Yeah. Well, I think you're right. The less you kind of obsess about it and just go in the direction of what kind of work this person does, who are they, how do they behave, the more we won't be, kind of pinning it to the exterior.
Yeah. Although, it is funny, pattern matching and everything. There is, so I'm tall and have long blonde hair, and we have had a product who's tall and has long blonde hair, and she hired a woman who's tall and has long blonde hair. And we really were like, are we sure we're not just like,
you could not notice that.
Yeah. We were really like can we really have three, people with tall and long blonde hair and not have it seem like we're just hiring ourselves over and over again?
Right.
And so, I mean, we do check ourselves to make sure in that way. But anyway.
Well, whatever you're doing a great job. And I'll tell you, when I announced you were coming on the show, there's so many people out there that are just impressed with you and have worked with you and have said wonderful things. So I appreciate you taking time from the lake and Upper New York to tell us about your life journey and career.
Well, thank you. I just live my life, and if it's helpful to others to give them encouragement to live to their fullest extent, I'm happy to do it.
Well, good.
And I believe talk about Octave because it's very cool.
Good. Well, thank you. Up next, you're going to be with, or you're going to hear from Sherry Morrison, who's going to be with Becca Bow. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Whether you're just getting started, already well on your way, planning for your future, drafting your vision, growing toward greatness, or finding that dreams really can come true. Whatever your next steps are, we'll be right here with you, just like we have been for 150 years. Start here, grow here, stay here. Penn Community Bank. Here we grow.
Action News at 11 with Rick Williams. It's the team you trust to bring it all together. The stories that impact your community, a sports roundup for the locals, and the AccuWeather forecast you depend on. Action News at 11 with Rick Williams.
All right, did you know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, go to left, fake 'em out. Mama, go up,
She did it.
Again?
You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
The big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Welcome to the Lifestyle Segment of Women to Watch. I'm Sherry Morrison. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with makeup artist Becky Bow. Welcome to the show, Becky.
Hi.
Becky and I spoke at length, and I did a fair amount of reading about her career. Talk about makeup. You cannot make this up.
The good one.
I think that needs to be the name of your new book or your Netflix series.
You can't make this up. That's amazing. I love that.
If someone were to show you Becky's photo at this stage in life and ask you to select one of the following as a career: lighting designer, rock star, makeup artist, theologian, you better check all of the above and more. Becky, can you tell us a little bit about in the beginning of Becky and where you're from in your education?
I grew up in Vermont and on Lake Champlain. I'm the middle child of five. I have four brothers, lived in Vermont as a child. I think I told you I went on kind of an odyssey when I was 10 years old. My mother took three of my brothers and I on a kind of journey of self-discovery for herself, just towing us along to cross Europe and to live in Israel for a year. So that was really changed the way I looked at the world. And lived in Burlington until I was a teenager. At which point I was so I like to say I was a solid C student in high school. My mother had left to get her doctorate at Columbia when I was 15 and took my two younger brothers with her. And I was left in the house with my older brother, Paul, we just didn't get along back then. We get along famously now, but our siblings are always that way. And my oldest brother, Mark, who was in the beginnings of a lifelong battle with paranoid schizophrenia. So that was a kind of an interesting time. So it isn't really surprising that probably by the time I was finishing high school, and I finished high school not because I was early, not because I was such a brilliant student, but because I couldn't wait to get out of there. I floundered for a bit until my older brother, Paul, who had joined a kind of a somewhat rinky-dink band, rock band, as a bass player. They were traveling around and they asked me to run lights for them on a New Year's Eve, and I wasn't doing anything. So I said yes. And I guess I did a good job, because not long after that, they asked me to join them as their lighting person for $50 a week, traveling around New England in a van. And I should say that my entire family is musical except for my father. And so I grew up singing and did a lot of singing as a kid. And eventually I wormed my way on stage.
Well, a little bit more than just worked your way on stage. It sounds like you went from lighting to singer to leader of the band.
Yes.
You took care of all of the business side of things
Yep.
for the band.
Yeah, well, you'll know that I'm sure that Susan's talked to a lot of people, and you have too, that women who find themselves in leadership positions sometimes simply because you have those qualities, you demonstrate them in some small way, and then suddenly they're like, tag, you're it. No one else wants to do it. I remember the exact moment when I became the leader of the band. I remember the exact moment. We were playing at a club. There was some kind of scuffle about where we were loading in. And suddenly I just turned around to the guy at the club and I said, we need this and you're going to do this right now. And the rest of the band looked at me like this. And I'm like that. Ever since then, I was leader of the band.
Well, you must have been pretty good at dealing with people and learning how to negotiate difficult situations. I can't imagine, how do you learn as a child how to deal with your older brother, who it sounds like you were really close to? How do you learn how to deal with him as a paranoid schizophrenic? How do you know what's real and what's not? And I mean, their characteristics are so different depending on, how you're afflicted.
There really is no way. I was 12 years old when Mark became ill, and we were brought up loosely as Jews. My father was raised Roman Catholic, but my mother was Jewish, so according to the Talmud, I'm good to go. And so when he became ill, none of us knew what to make of it. None of us knew. And he also became a born-again Christian, which was kind of jarring for at least half of my family. And it was really rough in the first few years because it was so heartbreaking. And but over the years, I will say that, and I believe this very strongly, not that this is a conversation about the mentally ill, but I do want to get this message out there. If anyone else has someone in their family who is suffering from a serious mental illness. And what I found carried me through were two things. One, that you learn to love the new person and mourn and get over the old person because the old person's not coming back. And two, that these people, are on this earth for a reason. If we don't become more compassionate, more empathetic towards other people, no matter what they're going through, by virtue of this relationship we've had with someone who has a serious mental illness, then we have failed. And their life doesn't have as much meaning. So we give their life meaning by being better people.
That's a great message. It's a really great message, and a lot of people need to understand it, especially the part with being able to get over who you've lost and
That's right.
who you're ending up with.
Yeah, my mother never really was able to get over who she lost. My father was a little bit better at it.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so back to the band a little bit, because you had over 2,000 performances on stage. Tell us a little bit about the evolution and how you eventually you realized that you had more than artistic talents on stage, but behind the scenes with your makeup.
Sure. Well, yeah, and then there was that whole grad school thing in between. But I really always wanted to be. Like I told you, I came out of the womb like ta-da, and so that was kind of inevitable. And so that time in my life in the band was the happiest time of my life. It was joyous. It was hard. I was in a relationship that was very difficult, but we stayed together for the children, meaning the band. But a band is a family, and you get very close to your bandmates, and things evolve. You get better, you get bigger, you get more popular. It's very satisfying to hear your songs on the radio. It's wonderful. It's you're on stage, and you're on stage with utter abandon, the freest you could possibly feel. So I am so grateful to have had that experience, because I think young people who are coming up in music now no longer have as much opportunity as I did to tour around. I mean, the drinking age was 18 when I was in the band, and so we had these big, huge clubs that could sustain a band traveling with a truck and roadies and all that stuff. That doesn't necessarily exist anymore. So I'm super grateful about that. I'm grateful for it teaching me leadership skills. I was not a confident teenager. I had really bad skin. I was clinically depressed in my senior year of high school, or what was left of it. So, to find out that I had some kind of a leadership quality was, it was life-changing for me. And you mentioned diplomacy. I'm not sure how diplomatic I was back then. I think I've learned a lot of skills about just diplomacy since then. But I mentioned that I did have really bad skin when I was younger. So being in the band, that's when I started experimenting with makeup. And as you know, this was like the late 70s, early 80s. There was no Sephora. There was no Ulta. There was no YouTube. So everything that I was doing was simply getting what was available, mostly in the drugstore, and manipulating it in some way. So I just figured out that I was good at it. And that's where I first played with makeup and came to understand later on, when I had an opportunity to just kind of get a new job, that I was good at makeup.
Well, you got married. You were married 2 times. You're married now, and you were married.
I might be married 3. I keep telling him.
You what?
I might be married 3. I keep telling him.
Anyway, your mother-in-law from your first marriage, it sounds like you were very close to, introduced you, or got the introduction to Laura Geller.
That's right.
And that's kind of how you got more into the makeup business. So let's talk a little bit about your feeling on makeup now and where it's going. We don't have a whole lot of time. But where it's going and your mindset. I love your mindset, because it's your artistic ability and what you think is beautiful. And that's what you see when you first open up your website, this is what I think is beautiful.
Yes.
You do very natural work with most people, unless they have to be on stage and it has to be a little bit more obvious. But I love your mindset, because one, you have more of a love for people than what you do as an artist. So
that's right.
Let's talk a little bit about your business now and where you would like to go with that.
Yeah, I have, like you said, it's to me, it's all about the clients at this point, because I'm well educated. That was a whole other part of my life, but I use that ability to sort of think critically, to see that the beauty industry ultimately is victimizing women. So as I came back to makeup, after I came down here to Philadelphia for a big nonprofit job that I had, I realized that I was at an age where I really could be of service to women. And that's what keeps me going. It's what interests me. If I can stop anybody from buying too much stuff, I'm doing them a favor. I'm doing the planet a favor. So really, it's what I'm passionate about now.
Yeah, it's great how you've moved on from artistry with makeup to what's best for people.
Yes.
So I would love it if everybody would go to your website, learn more about what you're doing, your workshops and the classes that you have, especially for mature women. I'm signed up for one in October. I can't wait to attend, because I am mature. For Becky, thank you so much for joining the show. Unfortunately, we're not going to get through the Netflix miniseries about Becky, and you can't make this up.
You can't make this up. Amazing.
So for more information, go to www.beckybekebeau.com and check out her services, her schedule for classes, and her workshops. And please join me next week as I enter the world of summer enrichment camp with entrepreneur and founder of Handwork Studio, Laura Kelly. Sue will be up next with our Wellness Watch contributor. Thank you for listening, and keep living your dreams, ladies.
Whether you're just getting started, already well on your way, planning for your future, drafting your vision, growing toward greatness, or finding that dreams really can come true. Whatever your next steps are, we'll be right here with you, just like we have been for 150 years. Start here, grow here, stay here. Penn Community Bank. Here we grow.
Action News at 11 with Rick Williams. It's the team you trust to bring it all together. The stories that impact your community, a sports roundup for the locals, and the AccuWeather forecast you depend on. Action News at 11 with Rick Williams.
All right, did you know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, go to left, fake 'em out. Mama, go up, mama!
She did it.
Again?
You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
The big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Hi, and welcome back to the show. I'm very happy to be joined by Dr. Shailja Dixit. She is our Wellness Watch contributor. Shailja, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you, Susan.
Hi.
How are you? Nice to be
I'm
back.
well. You can hear me okay?
Yes. Yeah, thank you.
Terrific. Right off the bat, I'd love for you to just tell our viewers and listeners, what is Curio?
So first of all, thanks for inviting us. And it's great to be partnered with Women to Watch Media here in USU. Curio Digital Therapeutics focuses on women's mental and behavioral health. So we are a digital therapeutic platform. What it means is delivering interventions via digital platform for women's mental health and behavioral health across every stages of their life. So all the way from adolescent to when they start thinking about family, fertility, pregnancy, postpartum, menopause, perimenopause, and healthy aging.
It's a lot of different phases, isn't it, that we have to go through?
I know, and it's tough. And every phase is so different. There needs to be a tool to help us as we go through these phases.
Right. And there has not been anything like this before. So I think it's remarkable. Tell us about the products, and specifically a product called PPD.
Yes. So, as I said, for each of the phase, there are differences, right? There is age group differences, how we interact, the physiology and how we present with different aspects in our life at that stage is different. So we have a product for every stage of life. Our first product, as we started looking at the highest unmet need and where women can use some tools the most, which has an impact on women's life, family, infant. Obviously, the area that came out with the highest unmet need was pregnancy and postpartum depression. So PPD, as you said. So we have our first product for postpartum depression and pregnancy. We call it Mama Lift. So it's actually lifting the emotional health of a woman who's going through pregnancy as well as postpartum.
Shalja, I think one of the most important things you're doing in your work is trying to alleviate the stigma around many of these issues that women face. Talk to me a little bit about that and how you hope to change the stigma.
So, Sue, as you rightly pointed, just giving you some numbers before I go into that stigma part, right? Unfortunately, 65% or so of women who are pregnant or recently delivered and should get some kind of help for their emotional, mental health don't get any help, right? And this is United States statistics I'm talking about. And there are several reasons, but one of the major reason is stigma. So we believe the digital platform, because this is a tool which is available to a woman at her fingertips when she wants, without going anywhere, these are perfect for take care of these stigma, because you don't have to go out and seek help. The help is there coming to you at your fingertips, in your phone, in your app, as an app platform.
It's interesting because, no matter how it seems perhaps not quite human to be bringing digital and technology to helping women with their mental health and well-being, it's just the way of the world. It's the way we're going. And we have to kind of work with it.
Yeah, I think, it's the way we are going. Another thing is that COVID taught us many things, and it changed a lot of things the way we do. And digital is here to stay, because it made us think about it. If we didn't have those digital tools, many people would not have gotten even care, because telemedicine applications, digital tool were actually more in action, if I may say, during COVID. So absolutely, I won't say that. I call it like high tech, high touch. So only needed, this is the way we can actually provide something in an affordable and scalable fashion. So we are not saying that take away the human touch. We are actually launching it through the providers. So we believe that human intervention, a physician needs to be in that care coordination mix. We are not taking that away, but the idea is to enable and strengthen that aspect of emotional and behavioral wellness, which does not exist today. So I call it like high touch, high tech. So not taking away the touch aspect, that's always there and will have a value, but only touch when it's needed, because a lot of things can be done by technology today. So think about if a OBGYN or a provider or a therapist can only look at 10 people, this gives them an ability to actually provide access to hundreds maybe. So that's how we look at these kind of platforms.
I'm real excited for the weekly experts and stories that you're going to be bringing to the show. Is there one in particular you can talk about that we'll be seeing?
Yes, I think very soon you'll be talking with a chief research officer from Exia Women's Health, we are launching at Exia, Dr. Gary Riley, and he's adopting this for his patients, and we are very excited. I mean, I'm looking forward for him to talk about postpartum depression, talk about behavioral health issues within pregnancy, and provide his perspective from a practicing physician. So I think I'm excited about that. And then there are series of other experts that we have lined up, from various stages of women's life. We have therapists who will be bringing to talk about what is the stigma associated and how digital can help overcome the stigma and take care of your emotional and mental health.
What kind of feedback have you been getting from users of the app?
So the most enlightening thing for me, I'll tell you the good thing is every mom wants to overcome her mental and emotional health to take care of their family, right? So we have motivated users, right? We don't even call them patients. We have motivated women who want to get better. They're looking for the tool, right? So that was the first thing. I mean, I think we knew this, but when we saw how open women are and how desperate they are to look for some help, that was like, it was kind of like an aha moment that we are doing something right? This is needed. Another very interesting thing was I was talking to one of a user, and her story was that, the last thing I want, if you will think about a pregnant woman or a new mom, she is in the mix of the healthcare system, meaning she's going to her OB, she's going to hospital for her visits, she's going to her pediatrician, taking her neonate there, and so on. She said, the last thing I have time for and I want to do is yet another appointment, right? Because I am not operating on my own schedule, right? I have to do things in between when my baby's napping, when it's 2:00 in the night. And when we launched our product in a study format, we did find that most of the logins happen at 1:00 in the night, 2:00 in the night, right? So that proved to us that yes, this is actually a tool which is made available to a woman when she wants it, because unfortunately or fortunately, a new mom does not have a schedule of her own, and it's so difficult to book an appointment, drive to a place, and we are able to give her a tool that she can actually look at and get better whenever she wants. So that was, I think, one of the biggest feedback for me, and made us think that, it does make sense. All of the thinking and user testing we have done has actually come full circle, and we are seeing a good response from users.
That's incredible. I'm picturing, this woman in the middle of the night breastfeeding and needing support and having something at her fingertips that she can go to. I think that's really amazing. Before we let you go, tell our viewers just a little bit about yourself and what led you to do this work. Why is it so important to you?
So I'm a physician by training, but not in the neurology or behavioral area. I'm in internal medicine. It was a part of my own journey. When I had my child, I was also having a very, very full career, if I may say, at that point of time. I was with a corporate. It was so difficult to admit to myself and to admit to the world, because as a society, we have painted a picture that motherhood has to be an extremely happy event, all those chubby, beautiful babies. And it is, but it's not for everyone. I mean, it's not so. I didn't know how to handle that situation. I desperately wanted to go back to work. I desperately wanted to figure out how to manage this new world of mine, and I didn't have any tool. So, it was a little bit of emotional stress for me. I had to overcome that. And I felt that if I can make a tool at this point of time, at that time, this is 16 years back, we did not have digital tools to the degree that we have today. And we felt that the time is right. And it brought together all my personal experience and understanding of medical world, and also an understanding of digital area all together in one platform, where hopefully we can have an impact in life of every new mom and pregnant woman.
Yeah. And I think it's great as well. You are a doctor. And I think sometimes people think, well, doctors they don't struggle with anything because they're doctors. And the truth is, we're all human beings. So for you sharing that, I appreciate it very much.
No, absolutely. I think we don't acknowledge some of the things, and that's the stigma part. That's the stigma part, and we all have our own. I mean, I'm not saying that stigma is one cultural thing or one particular type of socioeconomic demographic thing. It's actually inherent everywhere in some shape or form, right? So when we talk, I mean, there are areas that we figure out which we have not thought about. So yes, absolutely. I mean, I think it's not about being doctor or being from one particular culture and whatnot. I think it's all across. We have stigma associated with this. The problems are more or less underlying common all across, Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm so looking forward to the segments. I think Curio is a perfect partner for women to watch. And I thank you for sharing a little bit about the company and yourself today. And we look forward to more time with you.
Thank you, Sue. And we are looking forward to this journey as well. Thanks for inviting me and Curio. And, we are looking forward to all the series that are going to come.
Terrific. Well, that's it for another week of Women to Watch. Stay tuned next week for my interview with Cornelia Samara. Cornelia is the GM of the Four Seasons Hotel here in Philadelphia. Have a great week, everyone.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
The big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.